speaking of quarterbacks in the first round, Justin Fields, I said we were going to talk about him just a couple moments ago. He declared for the draft earlier on Monday. No surprise here. Obviously, we knew that he was going to be declaring for the NFL draft. And it's really, really interesting because in the first 10 picks, there are a lot of teams that have quarterbacks that you can easily write off and say, oh, they've got a quarterback. They're not going to be taking a quarterback. But those quarterbacks are either old or they're on the hot seat. To where you could say, oh yeah, they could definitely draft a quarterback there and have that quarterback sit for a couple of games or at least a year and then be the starting quarterback next year. Those teams including Atlanta, Detroit. My favorite, though, is Carolina at pick number 8. Now, obviously, the Carolina Panthers have Teddy Bridgewater, who is a fan favorite. I think, you know what? I'm going to say he's probably even more of a league favorite. Like, everybody wants to root for Teddy Bridgewater. So I don't mean to step on any toes when I say that the Carolina Panthers probably want to move on from Teddy Bridgewater at some point in the near future, whether it's this season, the next couple of seasons. The Carolina Panthers draft number 8 right behind the Detroit Lions, who we just got done talking about. The Carolina Panthers draft behind the Lions, and if there is a quarterback left, a good top 10 quarterback there in the draft, I would be very surprised if the Carolina Panthers passed on that opportunity. Yes, the Panthers need some help on defense desperately. I think you can solve that in subsequent rounds. Actually, I'm curious, how many draft picks do the Carolina Panthers have? Let me look this up real quick. They have all 7 of their picks. So the Carolina Panthers have the capita to address other needs in the draft. Linebacker, defensive end, offensive tackle, I think, is one that they desperately need to take a look at also. But the quarterback position, there are so many good quarterbacks in this draft, it would be hard not to take one. And I think that's the philosophy that a lot of teams are going into this draft with. So when it comes to Carolina at 8, again, they're another one of those teams that have a quarterback. You could say, oh, they're out of running to get a quarterback. They've got a quarterback that they like at least a decent amount. But it's a quarterback that's kind of on the hot seat because as much as the league loves Teddy Bridgewater and as much as the league is rooting for Teddy Bridgewater, the facts tell me throughout the season that Teddy Bridgewater is just an average quarterback in terms of talent. Teddy Bridgewater throwing 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, fumble. He's got a fumbling issue, 6 fumbles. A lot of those fumbles coming in the back end of the season. But he was the 12th most sacked quarterback in the NFL. So if the Carolina Panthers go anywhere besides quarterback, it might be Micah Parsons at linebacker, or it could be an offensive lineman in that slot. But Panthers fans, I'm talking to you directly here. When you take a look at Teddy Bridgewater, are you confident that Teddy Bridgewater is your quarterback for the future? And obviously, that's the big question that a lot of franchises are asking this year is this the quarterback for the future? And for me, I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback for the future for the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if he's the franchise quarterback. I think he is a Band-Aid quarterback. He was definitely a Band-Aid quarterback when Cam Newton left Carolina. And I say all of this to with the knowledge that Teddy Bridgewater is a very smart football player. He is a very smart football player. He's got a lot of talent, but his production on the field has been just okay. And for that reason, I take a look, and if I'm a Carolina Panther fan, I'd say I'm not so confident that Teddy Bridgewater would be the quarterback for the future. But as I just said, he's a very smart football player. He could be a great teacher for one of those new quarterbacks coming into the league. And I don't know about anybody that has had more life experience in the NFL than Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously coming back from a disastrous injury, multiple years sidelined from a very freak accident injury. There is a lot for Teddy Bridgewater to teach a young NFL quarterback. And Teddy Bridgewater is somebody that Obviously he's young himself, but I feel like he's wise beyond his years. He's kind of like an Alex Smith type quarterback. Now, Alex Smith isn't exactly young anymore, but he's a smart game manager type quarterback. He's not going to blow you away with stats anyway. So as much as I'm sitting here and saying, well, his stats were average, throughout the season, again, 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, but he didn't necessarily have a lot of offense. I think a Justin Fields sitting behind Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina could be really, really interesting and beneficial for the Carolina Panthers if Justin Fields is still available at number 8. A combination of Justin Fields, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, who's had a comeback season in Carolina after coming over from the New York Jets. Obviously, they've got some exciting young talent on the defense. Brian Burns played extremely well this season. He was a bit of a Pro Bowl snub. Obviously, there's some more work to do on the defensive side of things in Carolina, but as a basis for the offense, the idea of Justin Fields sitting behind somebody like Teddy Bridgewater is very fascinating to me because I think Teddy Bridgewater is a good game manager. He's a smart football player, and even though his production on the field has been so-so, Justin Fields could change that, Justin Fields could change that level of production when eventually he starts for Carolina if they decide to go down that path. I think this could be a very good play for Carolina if they decide to go this route. And again, obviously, it depends on whether or not the 7 teams in front of them. Obviously, Jacksonville's taking a quarterback. Jets may or may not take a quarterback. Obviously, the word on the street is that Robert Saleh actually wants to work with Sam Darnold, which is obviously a debate in itself. We can go back and forth and talk about that all day if we want to. Obviously, Atlanta at 4, Detroit at 7, Miami at 3, kind of. Although they're more in the Deshaun Watson. Jesus. Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. That's a tongue twister. They're in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes more than anybody else. And of course they have Tua Tagovailoa. So that in itself puts them as a big question mark. But getting a little off track here, Teddy Bridgewater with Justin Fields sitting behind him is a really interesting idea to me. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is your long-term quarterback, but I think he could be a good teacher with all of his life experience within the NFL, with everything that guy has been through. Could be a great teacher for Justin Fields in that spot. Carolina, again, drafting 8th in the NFL draft. I'm curious to know what you all think about that as well. Could be a very interesting pick. There are going to be a lot of interesting, highly tense picks in this year's NFL draft. Lots of ways that it could go. Mock drafts are going to be very plentiful this year. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say, now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.